The Maine coastline was a brutal, beautiful tapestry of rock and pine, and Silas Thorne's 12-acre island was its most stubborn stitch. For 3 generations, the Thornes had held Foxbone Isle. It wasn't just property, it was a bulwark against the modern world, accessible only by Silas's dented Boston whaler. His nearest neighbor was a lobsterman a mile across the churning channel. Silas was checking his crab pots when he saw it, a flash of vinyl siding where there should have been spruce. He cut the engine, letting the whaler drift. Through the salt haze, a geometric wound appeared on the western ridge. Perfectly rectangular lots, carved with surgical precision, each adorned with an identical, boxy house in varying stages of completion. They were clad in a sickly shade of beige, each with a small, manicured plot of imported sod. A pristine, black-topped road snaked between them, ending at a new wooden dock where a sleek, white passenger ferry was moored. 50 houses. 50. A cold, tectonic rage settled in Silas's gut. He gunned the outboard, steering not toward the invasion, but to the old survey marker on the eastern shore. His deed, locked in a fireproof box under his bed, was clear. The island was his, every rock and tide pool. He beached the whaler and marched up the new road. A sign, tastefully engraved, stood at the community entrance, Tranquility Cove, a haven of harmony. All prospective owners subject to covenants, conditions, and restrictions. Below, a list of prohibitions: no boat storage in view, approved paint colors only, landscaping per community guidelines. A man in a polo shirt and khakis, clutching a clipboard, hurried over. "Sir, welcome. Are you a prospective buyer? You'll need to check in at the sales office. No private vessels at the community dock, I'm afraid. Association rules. Who are you?" Silas's voice was gravel. "Bradley Finch. Community manager for Tranquility Cove. We're about community, sir. About creating a seamless, hassle-free living experience. This is my land." Finch's smile didn't waver. It just hardened at the edges. "There must be some confusion. All permits are filed with the county. We purchased the island from a holding company, North Atlantic Acquisitions, 6 months ago. The sale was quite public." "A forgery," Silas spat. "My family's owned Foxbone since 1921. I'm sure your attorney can take that up with our attorneys," Finch said smoothly. "In the meantime, this is private HOA property. You're trespassing. Security can escort you out." Silas saw them then, 2 uniformed men with earpieces, hovering near a golf cart. A deep, atavistic fear cut through his anger. This wasn't a simple land grab, it was a hostile takeover wrapped in bureaucracy and benign smiles. He was being erased by paperwork and polo shirts. He retreated to the whaler, his mind racing. The local sheriff was a practical man, but his jurisdiction was the mainland. This was a corporate entity, a ghost with lawyers. Back in his century-old cabin, Silas pulled out his deed and his late father's marine charts. Then, he found the number for the Maine State Police, Marine Patrol Division. This wasn't a trespassing call anymore. This was something else. "Maine State Police, what is your emergency?" "My name is Silas Thorne. I am on Foxbone Isle, grid reference 43-22-17 North, 70-14-03 West. I am reporting a major case of criminal trespass, fraudulent land conveyance, and I believe an imminent breach of coastal zoning and federal maritime law. There are 50 unauthorized dwellings, a commercial ferry operation, and I have reason to believe the sewage discharge is non-compliant. This is an urgent environmental and safety hazard." He laid it out, clear and cold. The forged deed, the scale of the construction, the HOA's private security. He stressed the new dock, the unpermitted ferry service in a protected cove. The state police dispatcher's tone shifted from routine to razor-focused. 3 hours later, the horizon throbbed with authority. Not just the Marine Patrol's sturdy vessel, but a Coast Guard response boat, its orange stripes glaring. Behind them, a smaller boat from the Department of Environmental Protection. Silas met them at his rickety dock. The officers, in mirrored sunglasses and tactical vests, listened as he presented his brittle, yellowed deed. Then they moved as a unit toward Tranquility Cove. Bradley Finch was waiting, his smile strained. "Officers, welcome. I'm afraid there's been a misunderstanding from a disgruntled local. We have all our documentation in order." The lead state trooper, a woman with calm eyes, held up a hand. "We'll need to see permits for all structures, the sewage treatment plan, the dock construction, and the ferry operation. All of them. Right now." Finch's confidence cracked. "Our attorneys have that. It's at the corporate office in Delaware. The construction is here. The potential violations are here." She turned to her team. "Secure the site. Halt all work. We'll start with the septic systems. If they're draining into this cove, it's a federal issue." Chaos, quiet and efficient, descended on Tranquility Cove. Golf carts sat idle. Hammers fell silent. The DEP officers headed to the mechanical shed. The Coast Guard began inspecting the ferry's credentials. Silas stood apart, on a rise overlooking his violated shore. The beige houses looked absurd now, like toys placed by a giant with terrible taste. The trooper approached him. "Mr. Thorne, we've found preliminary violations. Significant ones. The holding company that sold this land. It's a shell. This happens sometimes. They forge documents, prey on cloudy titles in remote areas, and try to establish facts on the ground before anyone notices. They sell the lots, collect the money, and often disappear before the legal storm hits. But this scale is brazen. What happens to the houses?" Silas asked, watching a prospective buyer in a pastel sweater set argue with a DEP agent. "That's for the courts. Injunctions, demolition orders, it'll be years. But they can't stay. Not like this." As the sun dipped, casting long shadows from the grotesque new silhouettes on his land, Silas felt no victory, only a weary resolve. The police lights flickered against the vinyl siding, a surreal carnival on his lonely shore. The American flags hung limp on each porch, a hollow symbol of a different kind of order. He walked back to his cabin, past the Tranquility Cove sign. He pulled it from the ground with a grunt, the post splintering. He carried it to the cliff's edge and hurled it into the darkening sea. It was a start. The war wasn't over. The lawyers were coming. But for tonight, the soundtrack of Tranquility Cove would not be the whisper of the pines, but the idle grumble of diesel generators and the nervous murmur of people who bought a dream that never existed, on land that was never for sale.